Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrew, and in the spirit of the new year, let's talk about how grading went in 2025. So, in today's video, we're going to go over 5 things: how each company did throughout the year, how many sports cards were graded, how many non-sport TCG cards were graded, an overall total / market share review, and then a conclusion / my thoughts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the number 5 of the top 5 graders, SGC. SGC does stand for Sports Card Guarantee Corporation. They are located right here in my home state of Florida, so they are very close to me. But they have seen a decline over this year. Now, they were bought by PSA relatively recently. However, when I say relatively, I mean within 2 years, I believe. We are seeing a drop in its submissions. So when we look at January, we saw 170,000 cards were graded. 10,000 of those were TCG, 160,000 were sports. And then you can see as we go down the year, the numbers are dropping. And you see a very rapid drop from August to September. What could cause that? Obviously, PSA is still king. People are tending to go with PSA now for quick liquidity. However, SGC themselves is becoming more of a boutique grader as their parent company Collectors wants them to be. So who knows? As you can see, I did not put the numbers in for December. These are just the current numbers available on GemRate, thanks to GemRate. But that's SGC. Let's move on to the next one. Tag. Tag is my preferred grader personally. I have 4 tag 10s and 7 non-10s. I love tag personally. A goal of mine this year, as stated in my goals video, is to grade with tag more. The issue is tag's data was not available at the beginning of this year. So next year we'll definitely see how it competes. But we only have accurate numbers from October to December. And they are lower than SGC in general. However, they are ramping up more and grading more consistently because they grade TCG over mostly sports. However, you are seeing still a small percentage of sports being graded at Tag. What do I think will happen to Tag this year? I think Tag has gained a lot of momentum since the Beckett buyout, and a lot of people are looking where to turn, and I think Tag might be one of those places. On to the next one. All right, on to Beckett, the newest company that was acquired by Collectors. Beckett is a juggernaut in the field itself. They are one of the oldest graders. And you can see they still do numbers. They're still taking submissions. They're still getting good traffic. They're just known to have very slow back orders, as well as really hard to get a hold of a few issues. Their top performing month was October and then November, but they consistently stayed between 50,000 to 75,000 cards each month, which at the end of the day is a lot. As you'll see as we go, it's not very much compared to the top dog, but it is a lot of cards they're grading every month. On to number 2, CGC. CGC is what everyone thinks is the juggernaut that's going to kill PSA. It's going to be the next big thing. And to be very honest with you, I don't think so, but they could give PSA a run for their money. As you can see here, we're seeing numbers in the 100,000s each month now, with their lowest month being in March for 248,000 cards, and their highest month being in the October and September months with 530,000 to 505,000. Now, we are seeing a lot more sports being graded at CGC, but we are seeing a nice amount of TCG being graded there. Only thing is, when you go to shows and when you look around, CGC 10s and pristine 10s sell, but anything less than that does not sell very well. Moving on to the top dog, PSA. PSA, as you can see by these numbers, is still the king. And at this point in time, it's going to be very hard for any other company to dethrone them. Lowest month was 1,308,000 cards, with a good spread of it being TCG and sports, with their highest month being in October at 1,970,000 cards. That is ridiculous. That is such a high number, and it's really crazy to put that into perspective when you think about how long your cards take to get through PSA. If I were to today submit a value bulk order for $18.99 a card, I believe, it would take 95 business days from when they are picked up by a grader, from when they start to go through the process of being graded. So it could sit in the package line for a month or two before they even touch it. And that's when your dates start. And that's the most important thing to think about when you're grading is how much time do you want to give up getting your cards graded? How much liquidity are you looking for getting your cards graded? And most importantly, what's the look you want? People like tag because of the clear slabs. Some people don't like that. I personally love it. People go to PSA because that red label is undeniably recognizable. Some people love a Beckett black label, especially the One Piece collectors. So it's really about what are you willing to give up in your time and money for the end game. Now we're on to the total number of sports cards graded. So this is their total from January all the way till December. We'll have the end of December's numbers hopefully within a week, but these are fairly accurate. Obviously, Tag has a very low number on there because they were not reporting from January to October. But at the end of the day, hopefully we'll see a lot more numbers coming next year. Now, the gap between our first place winner of sports and our second place winner, it's vast. It's more than 5 million, which is insane to think about, the amount of cards that are getting graded on a daily basis. So is PSA top dog with 7.1 million sports cards graded in 2025, as well as SGC in a close second with 1.3 million, CGC with 649, and Beckett with 305, and Tag with 4,000 from October to December. Crazy. A lot of people out there, I keep hearing, think that Tag and CGC can compete and will compete, and they will continue to compete against PSA. But when you look at the numbers, as of right now, there is no competing. Until they're able to ramp up grading, ramp up services, that 7.1 million number is jaw-dropping. But let's talk about TCG cards, what we're really here for. TCG cards, it gets a little closer, a little bit. CGC is competing a little more. PSA with 10.3 million. CGC with 3.8 million. Beckett with 437,000. Tag with 86,000 and SGC with 68,000. It is nice to know that Tag was able to compete that high in 3 months. So maybe next year we'll see Tag take the third spot. I doubt it'll take second, but it could. People are shifting. And at the end of the day, it is just vast to look at that pie chart and see the PSA share. But let's look at total cards graded. Wowza. When I first started recording this video and reading the script for this video, I honestly had no idea how much cards get graded and how many cards get graded. And looking at those vast numbers of 25 million cards being graded in total across these only 5 companies, there's plenty more. There's Ace, there's AGS, there's a few up-and-comers, but the fact that PSA graded 18.7 million of those cards is crazy and shows you why PSA moves faster, PSA sells faster, and PSA holds the crown for liquidity. Now, there could be arguments in the comments about how black labels from Beckett are arguably always going to be worth more, which they are, because a black label is a perfect card. Or some people think the Tag 990 score and above is a perfect, pristine card, which it technically is. At the end of the day, the card's worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And The fact that we're seeing some graded cards in a black label go for 30,000, crazy. PSA 10s go for upwards of anywhere from 3 to 10,000 depending on the card. Wild times we live in, folks. Market share. PSA is 72% of this market. And if we add in their Beckett share that they just got and do a collector's share, that would include SGC at that point, they hold 80% of the market. It's really crazy to think about. Now there is talks of whether or not they're a monopoly and whether or not they need to be broken up. At the end of the day, I'm not sure they need to be broken up. I just feel that TAG and SG and CGC need to do more to compete. What could they do? They could lower their prices a little more. They could run more specials. They could start offering returning customers better specials. I mean, PSA has their Collectors Club where you save almost $9, $8 a card in bulk if you pay $150 a year, I believe. TAG could easily start doing something like that. CGC could easily start doing something like that. There's ways to increase their market share and regain their customers and retain customers. In conclusion, PSA grades a hell of a lot of cards, but also there's over 25 million cards being graded that are just accounted for. If you want to get your cards graded, that's great. I get my cards graded for my personal collection, and I love looking at the slabs. That's just me. But at the end of the day, all I am is a vessel for my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. Tell me what you think down below, and have a wonderful rest of your night. Happy New Year, y'all.